Roger Scruton had a term for people who often find themselves in policy making positions. He said that there are too many unscrupulous optimists, people who believe.
I love that expression.
Yeah, people who believe in a best case scenario, or there's a utopian scenario, or they have this idea of there are a few different good things over here, and if we just aggregate them all together, that just equals even more good. So he outlines a whole bunch of fallacies, and effectively he argues in a book which is called The Uses of Pessimism and the Dangers of False Hope that it needs to be counterbalanced with people who can see the trade-offs and the risks, and we can't just go on thinking that we can have this huge vision of this perfect future connected to abstract ideals without recognizing the messiness of local life living together. And I think that connects with another idea of another eminent intellectual like Thomas Sowell, who talked about where we see a lot of conflict in politics and just in daily life is because there's a conflict of visions. You've got those people who are part of the thinking class. They have the vision of the anointed. They self-anoint themselves. They believe in solutions, the moral perfectibility of man, and that they're just a bit further along that curve. And if you just give them the reins, they'll be able to deliver this perfect plan. And that's another fallacy that Scruton talks about, the planning fallacy, that just follow this plan and things will work out for the best. And that conflicts with the vision most people, ordinary folk, hold, which is the tragic vision is we're not morally perfectible. It's the old story of the fall. You know, we're probably better off relying on cultural and traditional knowledge and norms to help self-govern both as individuals and communities, and not to outsource all of our responsibility. And I suppose this monologue has made me question whether this is just a bit of the end point of liberal governance with regards to, if you just say that all of those constraints and self-governing things and cultures and traditions are kind of oppressive and not to be trusted, and we will, as a government, you can entrust us to enable you to meet your desires in whatever way, just keep on giving us the responsibility to do it. And all of a sudden you've got this big state who looks after every aspect of your lives, and is so insulated from the feelings, the everyday reality of people, and they're sitting in their little offices coming up with these huge plans for a whole society. It's kind of no wonder that it goes wrong. They're blind visionaries that don't even really know how it's going to hit the rest of the nation. And I feel like no matter who you vote for at the moment, whether it's the Tories, whether it's Labour, they're just blind visionaries. They might be slightly oriented in a different direction, but they just believe that they are going to be able to deliver in accordance with this grand plan. And it's failed time and again. And I don't know when we're going to get an option on the table of people who just have a more realistic view of humanity and what we are and what we can endure, I suppose.
Well, I would say that especially on the left, the commitment is to ideas and not to reality. Ideas trump reality, and therefore success doesn't occur on the ground in people's lives. Success occurs in rhetoric, and those are the kinds of victories they're interested in, and maybe abstractly power, but not making people's real lives better, just a little bit better, not perfect, but making it slightly better, or at least not worse tomorrow, right? And that's where the left has always tended to fall down. Is traditionally they have an overly optimistic, as you were saying, view of human nature, and imagine that we're all perfectible. In fact, one of the things that actually changed on the left in the last few years with the new woke cancel culture people, they actually think we're all evil. Mm-hmm. And that's that kind of cynicism about oh, at least all white people are irremediable racists, right? That's not the kind of view that a traditional left wing usually embraced. The usual problem is that they have too cheerful a version of people, and therefore aren't looking out for how much, for example, people will take advantage of the welfare system because they don't want to work. It's just assumed that everyone wants to work and they're good. And if you take advantage, if you use the welfare system, it's because, you have a good reason. You can't work. But nowadays, I think the left is much darker on human nature, and it therefore is much more oriented toward control, toward authoritarianism. You have to make people be good. You have to bring in laws, and basically the police make people be good. And that is, that is therefore assuming that people won't do what you regard as the right thing naturally. And that was on display during COVID, which was another, by the way, turn off for me about the UK. I never felt the same way about the UK after COVID. And it was, all the other pandemics previous, it was like, everyone was trusted to protect themselves. And if you were especially vulnerable to a disease that most people would survive, you were trusted to stay home or not do too much socializing because you would act naturally in your own self-interest. But as far as when COVID came along, that was out the window, and nobody could be trusted to be intelligent and act on their own behalf, and everyone had to be perfectly controlled down to the point of absurdity. And I think that was more cynicism. People are stupid is the assumption.